I've actually already started the next book. This video is coming after that, unfortunately. What up, my dudes? My name is Amanda, and today I come to you after another shower. Today's video is going to be about my vlogging experience of reading the second book in the selection series, The Elite. This is part of my 2020 rereading my favorite series from when I was younger challenge. If you want to see the first video in this series, I'll have it linked somewhere at some point in this video. This book has 31 chapters instead of 25, so I decided to come to you every 10 chapters with notes and highlights. This also worked out really well for me because, well, I didn't take many notes. I didn't take any notes until chapter 4. Really, up until like chapter 7, it was still kind of reintroducing the first book so that you could remember things in case you hadn't read them in a while. So if you don't want any spoilers for this book or this series, right now would be a really good time to turn away. Where I'm at in the book right now, Maxon threw a Halloween party for America. Marley just got whipped for having an affair. Oh, I highlighted this part that America was thinking to herself. She said, but how was I supposed to decide between two good possibilities? In America, the answer is you don't have to choose between two good possibilities because you have one good possibility in Aspen. Chapter 5, someone said women in battle sounds like a terrible idea. Why are we talking about this again? Why does she keep bringing up women in battle? In fact, why do a lot of authors feel the need to comment that women in battle is a bad idea? Maxon decides to throw the Halloween party, are going to, throw parties themselves. We definitely don't have money to be throwing around because we're in a war and everyone's starving, but let's have a Halloween party and import sweets. Also in chapter 5, America brought up again the comment that Maxon always seemed to find the things that would make her the happiest. That's a sign. That's a big sign. One of my least favorite tropes, I don't know if you can call it that. One of my least favorite things in the entire world happened in this book. The women were sent to the women's room. That's not the problem. To have tea, still not the problem. And the men were sent to, that doesn't say where, but the men will be having cigars with the king. I really hate men having cigars in a separate room where women aren't invited. I don't know why that one gets to me more than any other situation. Later in chapter 7, I made a note that America's family came to visit for the Halloween party. Her mother, her father, and her sister show up, and no one mentions her brother at all, her younger brother. Eventually she gets a letter from her oldest brother saying that I understand why, I can't remember his name, it's Gerard or something. I understand why Gerard, their youngest sibling, isn't there, but I don't get why I wasn't invited. And I was like, no one else has bothered to talk about this kid, to even mention oh, he's staying with family. Where is he? If he's too young to come visit you, who's watching him? In chapter 8, Maxon's basically been spending a lot of time with the other girls, and America's been getting jealous, which is good because she needs to realize that it would hurt her to lose. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not good that she's jealous, but she has something to win in this competition. She kind of brought it up to him, which is also really good. She should talk about her feelings openly with him. And he said, I was saving this dance. I put in time with all the other girls, so my obligations are over, and now I can enjoy the rest of the evening with you. And I think that's really sweet. And then right after that, he did say, I thought you felt secure in your standings, which I understand exactly how he felt in this situation, and I understand exactly how America felt in this situation. It's sometimes you just get irrational, even when you trust someone completely. Chapter 8, I highlighted the quote America said to Maxon, what in the world am I supposed to be able to give you? And I thought that was really cool because it's referencing back to when she was with Aspen and she was giving him everything, and he was like, I want to be giving you things though. And I really still don't love the idea that both parties in a relationship need to be giving something physical. Chapter 9. Okay, so I've read this before, so I knew it was coming. America doesn't know at this point that Marley has cheated and is about to get whipped. And so she is trying to figure out what's going on, and she said the exact quote, I couldn't think of a relationship between all the secrecy and Marley's absence, and nothing I came up with made sense. And I thought it was really clever that Kiera Cass used the word relationship talking about Marley's absence, because the reason why she's absent is because she's in a relationship. I'm going to get started on chapter 10 now. I'm hoping to read a few more chapters before I fall asleep, but no promises because it's 10 o'clock. I don't know why I keep filming these at 10 o'clock at night. That's my bedtime. I'm really hoping I can finish this book tomorrow. I'm not totally sure I'll be able to. Wednesdays are kind of busy, so I don't know. Okay, really quickly, I forgot to say one thing and then I promise I'll be leaving. I know for a fact that the whole entire like Marley getting whipped thing is the like main conflict of this book, because right now Max and America are talking about getting engaged, and I know it's the main conflict to like split them up in this book and to make it so that it's not like, oh my god, America won in the first few chapters of book 2. I have to say that this was a much better use of driving the plot than in the first book's use of trying to like separate Max and America. Hi, it's Friday. I accidentally took like a day and a half off of reading, so I'm a little bit behind on my schedule of what I wanted to read, but I'm checking in with you now, so that's great. I'm on chapter 19. I decided to stop right now and check in with you guys on some highlights. I have a few, not a ton, but I think I'm about to hit the end of kind of this middle lull of the book, so I'm gonna stop here and catch you up. They're at this part where the whole entire plot is based around like this miscommunication and kind of struggle between Maxon and America, and then there's this whole entire part where America and Aspen are like flirting behind his back, and I'm just not into it, so the notes I did take are not gonna take me super long to get through. Okay, this is the one thing that I really want to talk about. There had been something bothering me about America that I like couldn't pinpoint it down, and chapter 11 someone finally said it to her. I don't remember if this was Natalie or Chris, it might have been Elise even, but it was one of those three, and she had said something like, "You're 4, you don't even understand what the world's like," and they were like, "Don't pretend that you know anything about what I can and cannot tolerate. Just because you're a 5, you think you're the only one who's ever suffered." And I was so happy someone finally like snapped back at her, because yeah, she's been through a lot and her life is hell, but one thing I feel like I'm always telling people in my life, especially when they're complaining about something, is they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry to be bothering you with my problems. I'm sure you have a lot worse ones." And I'm like, just because someone else in the world is suffering more than you are right now doesn't mean that your suffering isn't valid. Like, just because someone is starving to death doesn't mean that you can't understand what hunger feels like. Every person is going through their own understanding of the world, and so suffering is suffering no matter who it is or what they're going through. America had just kind of like backlashed against all these girls. She kept bringing up the fact that she was a 5 and that she had it so much worse than the rest of them, and the rest of them didn't understand the world. And maybe they didn't understand the whole world, but they understood parts of it, and they understood pain and problems. And my dog keeps sneezing behind me, I'm so sorry. Anyways, this comment like really stuck with me. I was frustrated that she didn't learn from this. Like, she kept talking about the other girls being like, "I'm the only 5," or "They're 4, so they don't get it." But I know that eventually that will change, and she kind of starts to understand that everyone has their own problems. Will you stop sneezing? Later in chapter 11, someone was talking about Celeste, and they mentioned to America that she hit her maids, and I highlighted that because I know that at the end of book 3, if you don't want any spoilers, skip ahead like 20 seconds. At the end of book 3, Celeste is like, you like start to get her backstory and you start to understand for her and you start to kind of feel for her a little bit. And I remember last time being like, oh, she's redeemed, like she has her redemption arc. But I wanted to remember this because I didn't want to feel that this time. I wanted to understand that, like, yeah, I kind of think that America's being shit and like shitting on Celeste all the time for every little thing she does. But also she does genuinely do some horrible things, like hit her maids. And then also America said, I couldn't imagine the maids doing anything that deserved to be hit. America, no one ever does anything that makes them deserve to be hit, okay? I don't remember what they're talking about right here, but later in chapter 11, America is talking to Maxon and she says, maybe you should tell him it was my fault, maybe you should just send me home. I think that's about her fight with Celeste. And basically I highlighted that because it's so obvious. There are like moments throughout the book that after Marlene goes through her incident that she goes through where America is like trying to get sent home, and even she's not processing that that's what she's doing, but I notice it as a reader. And then chapter 13, she finds Ilya's diary again. She had forgotten it was there. I highlighted that because when she hid it in the location she hid it in, I was like, she's gonna forget that that's there. And then in chapter 13 later on, there's a long like 2-3 paragraphs where she's kind of talking about this idea, so I won't read you the quote, but she's talking about the idea of how Maxon had the ability to give her anything she could ever want, and how Aspen had the ability to give her what she needed. And she talked about it in the sense of like Maxon had every object in the world and Aspen had no objects in the world, so he could only give her time and pay her with like being with her, whereas Maxon could just like toss off an object to her and be like, hey, whatever, like just take it and have the stuff. The more I was thinking about it, I was like, I think she's looking at it wrong, because she's looking at it like, yeah, Maxon can give you whatever you want. So that goes to show you that when he does give you the things you need, it's because he wants to give them to you. It's because he's trying to make an effort. When he's spending time with you, it's because that's what he wants to do. Whereas Aspen, that's what he has to do. That's all he can give you. So he can't give you anything more on top of it. And later in life, when you come to him and you're like, honey, I need a little bit more. I want you to spend more time with me or something. He's gonna point back and be like, look, I'm already spending all this time with you. I'm already giving you everything I can. And this doesn't happen, but it was just something I was kind of thinking about, how like she was looking at it as such a negative, and I don't necessarily see it that way. In chapter 14, America is just bashing Celeste again. She doesn't want to do anything for the day. She just wants to sit and watch TV all day long. So she says this would be a Celeste day. And I'm like, girl, you know how many days I've spent just watching TV? Later in chapter 14, all of the girls have tea with the king, and he pulls them aside one-on-one to individually talk with her. And America, he never has tea with her. He excludes her, and she doesn't really know if it's on purpose or not. And I was like heartbroken for her, because that just is so painful. And she doesn't talk to anyone about the incident, so I think that it comes back later as being like an accident. I don't fully remember, but it was heartbreaking to watch, to read. Chapter 15, the girls are given this, they have to put on a reception for foreign diplomats, and I highlighted the part where they're doing that because I thought this was like finally a really good test to prove if someone could be a queen or not. Chapter 16, I highlighted a part where America just ran away. Like the rebels attacked the palace and she just ran into the woods, and how is that logical at all? And then she was lost there for an entire day. Like, what? What is she doing in there? I know this is important later, but like, girl. And in chapter 17, America finally makes amends with Max, and he comes to visit her in the hospital wing when she's back after being in the woods all day. I also highlighted that because it was so obviously attacked to like separate Max and America so that they could see like how much they actually meant to each other, so that they could reunite. And they're sort of reuniting afterwards. It's not as much as I thought they were going to be, but they're working on it. Anyways, that's it through chapter 19. I am going to be reading possibly 5 more chapters and then checking in, but I'm really gonna try to finish the book. I'm gonna be finishing the book tonight, so no matter what, I'll be checking in with you guys tonight and letting you know how it goes. Hi, I thought I'd come to you because I still have 4 chapters left, but I need to make my bed, so I'm gonna run through the highlights with you of the last 9 chapters that I read. So like I said, I'm on chapter 28, so I still got a little bit left to go, but it's not a ton, so I'm gonna update you guys while I do this task. The first thing I want to talk about was from chapter 19, and that's when the Italians came to visit. They basically flat out told America that they were gonna do anything to make sure that she won the crown. And I highlighted that because it seems a little suspicious, but like, I'm glad they're helping her anyways. The next thing is also from chapter 19. America got a letter from her dad, and he's like, babe, you can do anything, and it just warmed my heart, because he was literally like, you don't have to lead, I'll love you either way, but like, I think you have it in you to do that. And I think that was the difference of what I was looking for when she asked Aspen earlier if she could lead, when he was just like, nah, I don't think you can. He was being honest, and I appreciated his honesty, but like, when I saw her dad say this instead, I understood like what true love looks like. In the next chapter, chapter 20 if you will, America was shown by Maxon what's up with Marlene. Yeah, she's not doing too bad. She's married now, and she's happy, and she's working as a maid in the palace, so like, she's not doing bad. And that was really nice, because it was like a reunion of Maxon and America, a reunion of America and Marlene. And even though America's still not totally trusting the boy, I mean, they're at least in a lot better of a place. I didn't take any notes until chapter 23 after that. I guess I just wasn't interested in doing that. But in chapter 23, Chris confronts America and is basically like, I just need you to be honest with me, like moving forward. And then America and her kind of talk, not a ton honestly, but then basically America comes to the realization that Chris wrote him a letter one day when she saw that Maxon was upset, and one of the things he said that he really appreciated about that letter is no one had ever given him a gift. And I wanted to highlight it because America's being selfish. I mean, she's talking about all the stuff that Maxon gives her, and never once in this whole entire time does she stop and think, what can I give to Maxon besides, myself? Really quick pause, because I actually want to read you this quote directly. Mary is talking to Anne, the two maids, and Mary says to Anne, why can't you be happy with who you are instead of stepping on her to make yourself feel better? And I know that Mary was talking about Anne doing that to Lucy, but excuse me, someone needs to say this to America about Celeste, because yeah, Celeste is awful, but like America, she does it to the other girls too, just keeps like berating them and belittling them in her head to make herself feel better about being a 5. In chapter 24, America finally has a talk with Maxon where she says that she's just confused about everything that he's doing, everything she's doing, everything she's feeling, and it was really good. They needed to have that talk. Amen. Chapter 25, America asks for private lessons from Sylvia, and they finally appreciate her. Like, they keep talking crap about her, but like, she's just doing her best. She's gonna train all of these girls who have no experience into being queens. Like, I'm so glad that she's finally feeling like she has a purpose in life. Later in chapter 24, Maxon basically tells America, you have an ultimatum. He's like, either you tell me this is what you want and I'll keep you here, or you leave and I don't have to kick out someone else who really wants this. Another great quote that I'd like to read you. America kind of got mad at Aspen because he was just like, oh, we should like hurt the upper class. He didn't use the word hurt, but that was his intention. And then she said, I'm a 3 now and you're a 2. Instead of being bitter about what we were handed, you see the chance you have. I can't do this quote. Basically, America's saying, instead of like sitting around and being mad at everyone who's born into this power, why not use this power we've been given to help the people who are still stuck down below? America then found out in chapter 26 how easy it is to erase history. I mean, basically, you just gotta tell lies to one generation and hope they forget to ask the previous generation the truth. I'm sorry that all you can see is my legs in half these shots. I have really long legs and they're a lot of my body. Chapter 26, America finally mentioned her brother, and besides her older brother mentioning him one other time, that's the only reference we have to him in this entire book. So I had to highlight it because, like, what is up with this child? Where did he go? One of the maids helps America by kind of telling her where Maxon is when you find out he's not hiding. He's with Celeste, but he's hiding. And then America's like really confused because the maid says, we want you to win. And she's like, who the hell is we? And I'm kind of in the mindset that the we is the rebels. I can't totally remember if that's fact or not, but like, I have a feeling it is. And then of course America walks in on Celeste and Maxon making out in the hallway. And she's distraught and angry, and honestly, girl, there's a certain point where you can be angry, but then also like, you kind of knew what the selection was about. She keeps trying to argue that she can't believe that Maxon would do this to Chris, and I'm like, girl, you're mad that Maxon did this to you. Stop saying that you're worried about Chris. You're worried about yourself. Okay. America was trying to speak truth to Maxon, and I was just like, girl, you actually speaking truth to yourself. You need to listen to your own words, okay? And here's what she said. You are nothing but a child who has his hands on a toy that he doesn't want, but can't stand for someone else to have it. That's what you're doing. Finally, the last note I have for this reading section. There was a point after America made her whole entire presentation about being like, let's get rid of the caste systems. Everyone was angry, and the king was really, really angry, and he made a comment like, oh, or I could talk to America on my own. And Maxon / everyone else was like super against this. And I'm not gonna say why that was, but it gave me a flashback and let me remember something that the king does to Maxon / has done to Maxon that we find out about later. Wow, I forgot about that detail. I thought that was another book that I read. Dang, the king's a douche. And what exactly that is, I'll probably be getting more into book 3. I don't think they bring it up again in book 2. My bed is made. I am going to go back to reading now. I only have 4 more chapters, so I'll come to you at the end of that. I finished the book. I've taken a shower, I didn't wash my hair, and now I'm ready to talk about the last 4 chapters. Also, I'm going to be putting lotion on while we're doing this. Sorry, I'm multitasking so much tonight. Chapter 28 is actually in reference to what I was talking about earlier. I thought we didn't find out that the king beats Maxon until book 3, but apparently it comes out in chapter 28 of book 2. It was also kind of cool because then it brought in this whole entire idea that like he could relate to Marley and everything she went through, so that was kind of nice. Maxon and America were stuck in a room together, so they kind of had to talk about all of their issues, and that made me really happy because they just need to sit down and talk about their issues. As they were kind of discussing this, America at one point was listening to Maxon talk about how great Chris was, and she'd had the exact thought, I wish I had something bad to say about her, something that would bring her down a notch, but I didn't. And I'm gonna actually save that for my review. I just wanted to say that quote to you guys really quickly. Aspen then kind of got mad at America in chapter 30, and so she had been kicked out, was being sent home. Aspen was like basically being like, I'm yours, we're getting married right away, I'm gonna leave the palace, let's go do it. And America was like, look, he just broke up with me, you broke up with me before, I'm dealing with things and I need to be given time to deal with them in my own way, and you need to just give me space while I need it, and if you're willing to do that, then I'm willing to take you back at the end of this if that's what I come to the realization that I need. And he's like, you still want Maxon? And she's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Basically, Aspen and America had like a reconciliation, not a reconciliation, had a chat that they also needed to have this entire book. And America said something really important there to Aspen. She said, I don't want to be the girl you end up with because my only other option isn't available. And then she said to him, kind of what I was talking about, and if you don't love me enough to let me breathe. That sentence cuts off, but basically she said, you need to love me enough to give me time to breathe. And then in chapter 31, she's about to leave the palace, and she realizes that up until this point, this is what she had wanted, was to leave, and that's kind of been what she'd been focused on. And now that it was here, she realized it was something she didn't want to happen. And then of course Maxon shows up and is like, girl, you're not leaving. I'm not sending you home. I talked with my dad. I explained it. Somehow I worked my magic and you're staying. And then he was like, but things are going to be different. And then she also had a small moment where she had the opportunity to like one-up Chris, and she decided instead of doing that to let it go. And I feel like that's what was one of the things that proved that she was starting to change. My ending thoughts. I didn't like this book as much as I did the first time. I remember not liking this book as much as the first one, so that's still accurate. I didn't like it as much though. I felt like I ran into too many issues, a lot of girl hate, and that just kind of rubbed me really the wrong way in this one in particular. I also felt like the conflict just wasn't jibing with me. I just wasn't feeling it all that much, and overall nothing really stuck with me as super relevant in the book. Like there was probably 2 moments throughout the entire book where I was like, yeah, that something actually happened and it was important, but other than that, America really just kind of annoyed me, and I just didn't feel totally connected to it as I did in the first book. Saying that, I am definitely going to be reading book 3. I am totally excited to be finishing it. I remember a lot of things happening in book 3. Now, the big question that this whole entire series is about, am I going to be keeping this book on my favorites bookshelf on Goodreads? I feel like if you've been watching this video, you kind of already have a guess as to the answer of that, and that answer is no. I have decided to remove it from my favorites bookshelf. I felt like the nostalgia level wasn't as high with this book, and that the value of it just didn't hold with the first one. Not saying that I disliked the book. I just feel like if I were to have read this book right now and not have the nostalgia factor, I would not really care for it. But the nostalgia factor really helped me enjoy the book and helped me get through it, and reminded me of a time in my life when I didn't read to necessarily analyze everything, I read to enjoy things. And so I think if you're going in looking for a book that you want to enjoy, a sappy romance, competition, that kind of stuff, this is a great book series to read. There's also some more political underlying themes, and that's really important, along with some social and economical themes too. If I hadn't read this book before, I definitely would have rated it a 3, possibly lower, but most likely a 3. Because of me having read it before and having that nostalgia factor, unfortunately, my own personal feelings come into how I rate books. If I didn't have feelings, you know, the few that I have, I would definitely rate books a lot differently than I do currently, because whether or not I click with characters or I like something or I dislike something affects the rating 100%. So because of all of that, I am going to be rating this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Originally, I had rated this book, I believe 4.5 out of 5 stars, so it's dropped a good chunk. It's dropped a whole star, which the first book also dropped a whole star. I am going to be starting the third book tonight, so I'm probably going to do my intro and I'm going to be looking exactly like this, but I won't be giving many updates probably for a little bit because the next few days I'm going to be super busy. Talk to me in the comments if you've read this book or if you have any questions about this book. I definitely would love to talk to you about it. Let me know if you have any plans on rereading a series from your past. I'm really enjoying this and I'm so glad I am doing it. Until next time, I'm gonna stop playing with my lotion and I will talk to you in the comments. Bye.